Hi, this is Mike Brown, owner of Death Wish Coffee Company. Welcome to Fueled by Deathcast.
I love Jeff, but sweet and hot. Whoop, there's so much drama, coffee spot.
Death Wish Coffee presents Fueled by Deathcast, the world's strongest podcast. With your hosts, the incredible Jeff and the amazing D-Man.
Welcome to Fueled by Deathcast, everybody. As always, I am the incredible Jeff.
And I'm the amazing D-Man.
You are.
It's a
you
fact.
are. And actually, we've been these people for 26 episodes. This is
Wow.
a full 6 months we've been doing this show.
Wow.
So, we want to thank all of you guys for listening. And if this is the first episode you're tuning into, thank you for discovering Fueled by Deathcast.
Every episode is a milestone for me, man.
Yeah.
Just like I can't believe they have not shut us down yet.
Exactly. I think it's a lot in thanks to our voiceover guy, Brock Powell, brockvox.com. He's given us some new bumps lately. We actually have some new ideas from him on this show, which is
You'll notice some
fun.
changes.
And at the top of the show, we always like to shout him out and his podcast, Unpop Podcast, which is really funny. Go check those guys out. And a couple other podcasts we've been listening to. Recently, we had Tate Fletcher on the podcast of Caveman Coffee, and he also has his own podcast network called Pirate Life Radio.
Which is it's pretty fun. It's pretty freeform, and it's it's him being a dude sitting down talking about being a dude, which there can never be enough of that.
Yeah, and conversely, his partner in crime, Lacey Mackey, has her own podcast called Grown Ass Women Coffee Club.
Yeah, I think
and
that's it. You nailed it.
Also pretty laid back, but a bunch of girls talking about being girls and being cool.
Yeah, but
girls
not
and
like
all
the
that stuff.
typical girly stuff that some of the typical girly stuff that you would imagine, but I think it's really great. Tate put it a good way, just like if you're a dude who wants to find out about how a woman works, it's a pretty great podcast to listen to.
It is. And finally, I want to shout out one that is always in my my listening rotation of podcasts, and that's Star Talk Radio. That's the one that Neil deGrasse Tyson puts out, and it is just the coolest science stuff.
How much
all the
information must that guy have in his head that he just like full of things that will blow anybody's mind? Is just trapped in that skull. That's amazing.
And he always brings on a bunch of interesting people too, like his friend Bill Nye, or just random scientists or astronauts or stuff. So totally go
cool.
check those guys out. And this week, if you're listening to this when it comes out on June 1st, it's this weekend. We're gonna be at Walker Stalker.
Oh.
I'm so excited. Walker Stalker Nashville. That's June 3rd and 4th. And Saturday and Sunday in Nashville. Tickets are still available if you're listening to this on the 1st. And if you're in the Nashville area, we hope to see you. We're going to be down there with Fueled by Deathcast, but we're also going to have a lot of the Nitro Cold Brew samples on hand. We're going to have some Death Wish Coffee freebies, and we're moderating a couple panels.
Yeah, and so if you're there at the Walker Stalker convention, make sure to stop in at the Sons of Anarchy panel.
Yeah.
Because we will be moderating that.
Yep. And also the Chad Elcombe and Tyrese from The Walking Dead, we're going to be moderating him as well. And both of those are on Sunday. That's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm sure we'll talk about all of our adventures when we get back.
I can't wait. Super pumped.
Secret code unlocked. Discount of death.
It's so good.
It's great. So this week, if you type in Claire, Claire, not only will you get 10% off of everything on our website at deathwishcoffee.com,
Yep.
but Jeff and I are going to make a donation to the Clarity Foundation, which we'll be talking about more as the episode progresses. But we're going to be adding on to our donation for everybody who uses this code. So we'll be adding on an extra $1 for every use of this code. Please don't break our bank, but we're going to
break our bank.
Break our bank. Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
stick to it. It's going to a good place, and this ends June 7th. So if you type in CLAIRE after this, it will not work, but for now it will work for 10% off of everything.
10% off, and every single time it's used, we'll add $1 to our amount that we're going to donate to Claire's Place Foundation. And as you said, we'll get back into that a little bit later in the episode.
Science!
So this week, I hate to say it, D-Man, but we're going to
We're going to
space.
space, shit.
We're going back to space, and this is pretty fun. Scientists are looking for your help. Your help.
My help.
Your help. Yeah, like really are looking for civilian help to pore over millions and millions of space images.
I'm surprised they don't do this more. Just like there's a giant populace that's interested in science and astronomy, astrology, Either way.
Astronomy.
Whatever.
But they're looking for help in the realm of pictures that were taken in the realm beyond Neptune, looking for celestial bodies. And what they're using is NASA's Wide Field Infrared Survey Explorer satellite, or the WISE satellite. And that is in a low Earth orbit. And so it actually is able to pick up infrared better than if it was on ground.
Wow.
And it has been, in the last couple of years, taking tons and tons and tons and tons of pictures. And what we're looking for, what the scientists are wanting us to look for, is possible brown dwarfs or low-mass stars, and possibly Planet 9.
So how are people going to find this?
Well, first of all, you're going to have to know what Planet 9 and brown dwarfs are. Planet 9, we've talked about on this podcast a couple times.
Don't get me started.
Planet 9
The Anunnaki are coming!
Right. Been this theory in science for a very long time that past Neptune, past Pluto, there is another planet out there that we have just never seen.
Because it works on a different orbit, right?
It works on a different orbit.
Yeah.
You know, contest Pluto being a planet or not, it wasn't until the 40s that Pluto was even found.
Wow.
You know, and if you put that into the context of the amount of time we've had since telescopes have been invented, you know, that's a long time. So there could technically be another celestial body out there, this elusive Planet 9.
I wonder if they'll be daring enough to call it Nibiru.
I don't know.
That'd be kind of cool, right?
That would be kind of cool.
So they're enlisting the public's help to find Nibiru?
Yes. But also brown
so
dwarfs
weird.
and low-mass stars, which we know that there are some close to our solar system, but there could be ones even closer than the ones that we found. Now, a brown dwarf is not technically a star like our sun, but it is bigger than the gas giant Jupiter. But it is still a huge mass of gas. So that's kind of what you're looking for. And like I said, one of the areas of interest that people are looking into is this ring of icy rocks that's past Neptune. It's known as the Kuiper Belt, and that's where we're looking for a lot of this type of stuff. And possible alignments of the orbits of the 6 objects out there hint that a 9th planet exerting its gravitational influence lurks in the darkness. Whoa. So this 9th planet could actually be out there. Now, the WISE satellite has mapped the sky several times, and like I said, that has produced millions and millions of images. And what you can do, and I can do, is you can go and look up Backyard Worlds, the Planet 9 mission. You can just Google Backyard Worlds, or you can type in zooniverse.org. That's ZOONIVERSE.org. And you can all you do is just sign up. They just want your email address, and you sign up, and then you can start poring over images. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to find...
So they're providing you images for
Right.
you to look over, so you don't have to break out your telescope or anything.
Right.
Okay, cool.
Now, it's going to take you hours and hours to do this. What you're going to do is you're going to find images, if you're watching us on our YouTube page, you're going to find images that look like this. And it's just tiny, tiny dots. And what you're looking for is the slightest movement between red or whitish blue dots. And by poring over images, you're going to see them just slightly move like that. Just slightly. And if you see that, that means that those are actually celestial bodies that were captured by this satellite, the WISE satellite. And like I said, it's going to take hours and hours, but thousands of people are already on board pouring through these images, and the payoff could be huge. You could literally discover a planet, and that's
wild.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Wow.
We love science on this podcast. That's why we always start the podcast off with a cool little science segment. But it's even cooler when we get to be a part of that science. And it's very easy. Like I said, just Google Backyard Worlds and the Planet 9 mission, and you can be a part of this, and you can sit at your computer looking through grainy images for hours. And
There goes my work.
Yeah, exactly.
Right out there. Nobody's getting coffee this week.
What fuels you?
So this week, we had the incredible honor of talking with Claire Wineland, who not only has her own charity foundation, the Claire's Place Foundation, for people with cystic fibrosis, but she has been diagnosed with cystic fibrosis since birth. And she has had a mortality rate a couple times in her life that have put her on death's doorstep. In fact, she was in a coma for a while, and nobody thought she was going to get out of it.
Yeah, I mean, straight up, she's made it further than anybody has expected.
Yes.
And this young girl has quite a perspective on death itself.
She really does.
I mean, it's very moving, and I felt very driven after listening to some of her YouTube videos.
If you go on over to YouTube, you can check her out at the Clarity Project. And that is where she has just opened up because, like she says, and she'll get into it in our interview, that, so many people feel like sickness there's a stigma about it, and you don't really want to talk, or people don't know how to talk about it.
Yeah, because
it's sick.
uncomfortable. But
she really bridges that gap.
Yeah.
One of the things that she said that hit home and I thought really should fuel everybody is, honestly, the theme of this podcast. We are the Fueled by Death podcast. And the reason is not because we're just put out by the Death Wish Coffee Company. It's because everybody, and we've said this so many times, everybody is fueled by something to keep going every day and to leave their mark before they leave this earth. And that is really what she's all about. She's faced with death on a regular basis her entire life, yet she isn't fueled by it. Quick, I got to do all these things, and I got to, finish my bucket list and all that stuff.
Take that bucket list, throw it out the window.
Claire is so smart about the idea that you need to take every day, every moment, and really squeeze all the life out of that. Stop. The idea of stop and smell the roses is such a cliche thing, but in actuality, in practice, that's something that everybody needs to work on.
A lot of people think that, one day they'll get the the notification like, hey, you're going to die in a week. And they think about these things that they're going to stuff into a week, but it's not about quantity. It's about quality and quality time while you're here. And that means not smashing in as much shit as you can into a day. That's not what it's about. It's about making the day kick as much ass as possible.
Exactly. In every moment, and really in immersing yourself in life. There's so much in this life that's awesome, from nature to science to...
And you could just pass it by if you're just trying to stuff shit in.
Yeah.
It's like, make it count.
Yeah.
You have that one moment in this time in the universe. Remember it. And just make it awesome.
Yes, and there couldn't be a better what fuels you, and coming from a incredible woman like Claire. And we're going to hear way more about everything she has to say later on in the episode.
Community shout out!
So, this week, community shout-out goes to Holly Karen Schneider. We see you on the internet. You're talking about the podcast. You're talking about Death Wish Coffee. But more importantly, you're a big supporter of Ricky Rackman and also Ricky's Ride. Now, Death Wish Coffee has been involved with Ricky's Ride the last couple of years. This is the final year that Ricky's doing this. And the reason why we bring it up is because it has something to do with our guest as well. But Holly, you are just like what we always are looking for in our community shout out. You've got a ton of positivity. You're always, posting, especially I get a lot of my Ricky's Ride information from Holly. Like when I see her posts and stuff like that, I'll see it before Ricky posts it. So it's like,
cool.
So mugs up to you and community shout out for Holly Karen Schneider. And kind of tying that into what we're talking about, if you're listening to this on June 1st, Ricky's Ride is starting. He's on his motorcycle, and he's going to tour all 48 states on that motorcycle.
That's wild.
And Death Wish Coffee is sponsoring him because hopefully we're going to fuel him through those thousands and thousands of miles.
That dude will need some coffee, I promise.
Yeah.
And some strong coffee.
Now, also to tie it in to our special guest this week, he is the whole ride, all of Ricky's Ride 2017, if you want to donate to it, all of the money raised is going to clairesplacefoundation.org, which is Claire Wineland's foundation for CF. And that is just such a cool thing that he's doing. He's raffling off guitars. He's literally touring the 48 states.
What a hero.
Yeah.
You know, this dude doesn't have to do that.
Not at all.
It's just, I can see why, though, after talking with Claire and really like digging into what she's dealing with. And there will be cures available.
Totally.
We're going to come up with something. And Ricky made it his mission to help that on its way. And we're making it our mission to help him help it on its way.
And not only that, and we'll get into this a little bit more too, but Claire's Place Foundation isn't just about, donating money towards a cure for CF. It's also for the families, because families are just ravaged by having children who have to deal with this disease because of all the time they have to spend in hospitals, all the time they have to take off of work, and that really can weigh on families. And this actually allows them to sleep at night and have a little bit, of ease because of the money.
Just
being
a little
raised.
relief, man. And we talked about this a little bit, but it's more than just about the money. It's more the fact that that there's somebody out there looking over you, and that goes a long way.
Totally.
That goes a long way, man.
Totally. So you can go on over to clairesplacefoundation.org or rickysride.com and find out more information about all that.
The Death Wish Death List.
This week, we lost a couple iconic names in the entertainment industry. First of all, we lost Greg Allman. He died pretty young, 69, of liver cancer. He was obviously a singer and musician, most notably for the Allman Brothers Band, which he started with his brother Dwayne. They actually were the Almond Joys in the 60s, and then changed
why they changed it.
and then changed their name. Hey, man, the 60s were a fun time.
Jeez.
They changed his name to the Allman Brothers Band in 69. Unfortunately, Dwayne, his brother, was killed in a motorcycle accident in 1971, and then the very next year, the band's bassist, Bill Oakley, was killed in the same way in almost the same spot.
Damn.
And the band went through a little bit of turmoil and eventually broke up in the mid-'70s, but that's when Greg Allman decided to pursue his solo career. He was also married to Cher at this time. For almost a full decade, he was married to Cher.
Strange. I didn't know that happened.
And his final album, his final recording, actually is still in the works. It's coming out later this year. They're just putting the finishing touches and post-production on it.
Oh, cool.
And he is considered a Southern rock pioneer. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and is won multiple music awards for his contribution to Southern rock. And we lost him. We also lost Sir Roger Moore. He also died of cancer at 89. He obviously is best known for his portrayal of the iconic character James Bond, which he took over from Sean Connery.
That's a big bite to take.
It
man.
is,
That's
and
intense.
there is many debates out there as who is better in the echelon of James Bond. Is it Connery or Moore?
Well, rest in peace, Moore, but I feel like that's not even an argument. I'm sorry. Connery took the cake on that.
And that's why the argument is out there. They both still hold the record for the most Bond films, each of them appearing in 7 different films as the character. But Roger Moore also appeared in The Saint and Maverick, which is funny. Both of those roles were originally intended for Sean Connery.
Oh, this guy was cleaning up, man.
Yeah. At the time, Moore was considered one of the biggest leading men in film, and he earned an unheard of $1 million for his role in The Persuaders for 24 episodes, and that was in the 70s.
Wow.
Yeah. He was knighted by Queen Elizabeth II for his charity work in 2003, and he has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, most fittingly at 7007 Hollywood Boulevard.
That's perfect.
Yeah, it really is. Death wish you a happy birthday this week to a couple interesting people. Today, there's 2 of them. On the day this comes out, Thursday, June 1st, the new Spider-Man, Tom Holland. He is going to be 21 years old, a little baby Spider-Man. But I'm excited to see him in his movie. Also, Thursday, June 1st, Sarah Wayne Callies, who was Lori on The Walking Dead, also on the main love interest, the nurse on Prison Break. She's going to be 40. On Friday, June 2nd, the lovely Morena Baccarin. She was Inara on Firefly. She's also on Gotham.
She's also in Deadpool.
And she's also in Deadpool.
Some good scenes in Deadpool with her.
She's
Just
gonna
saying.
she's going to be 38. On Saturday, June 3rd.
She's going to be 30. God damn, she looks good for 38. Just saying.
She does. And looking good for 53, Kerry King is going to have a birthday Saturday, June 3rd. That is the guitarist of Slayer. That dude is massive.
His beard is turning 70, though.
And finally, on Wednesday, June 7th,
You're going to be taken.
Jedi Master Liam Neeson is going to be 65 years old. So happy birthday to all of them. And we're going to take a short break like we always do and give you some Death Wish Coffee news on this week's update.
D-Man's Death Wish Update. Brought to you by Death Wish Coffee.
All right. So this week, I know we got some fun stuff to talk about, but I just wanted to kick it off by saying we are so excited for our Grind It Out campaign that's been happening. Marketing came up with this idea, and we've just been running with it. So many cool things have been coming out. Hopefully you guys have been following us on YouTube and in the emails. We've got some really cool featurettes on literally how our coffee lives day to day. Also, if you're a Spotify user, we've got some really cool Grind It Out playlists of all different types of music over on Spotify, and we're going to keep adding to those and the videos. And all you got to do to follow us is check out the hashtag Grind It Out on any of the social media, and you can see all of our different posts about this huge campaign, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been great. And we've got a lot of other cool stuff coming out on top of that.
Oh, boy.
So we recently had our Mother's Day card giveaway.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
we're going to do a Father's Day card giveaway.
Excellent. We can't leave the fathers out.
Can't leave the dudes out.
And who could have designed such a card?
Thomas?
Thomas Dragonetti, maybe? Yeah. Of course it was.
Thomas, is that you?
Of course it is. Of
Yes.
course it is. It's a if you got the Mother's Day card, I really liked it. My mom was so happy with that card.
They're nice cards, a good card stock, good
Yeah.
envelopes, and this is by the same company.
So we're going to be doing it again for Father's Day. Obviously, that'll come out in plenty of time for you to receive it and then send it right back out to your dad. So that'll be a lot of fun. What else?
Well, we're going to go back on the Grind It Out train.
Ooh.
We got a cool sticker sheet coming for the
my Grind It Out train.
No, get off that train.
All right.
Quick.
Sorry.
Never going to make it through this like this, Jeff.
Oh, no.
Oh, Christ. Anyways, so we have a cool little sticker sheet for Grind It Out coming out, and with a couple cool memes on them.
Cool.
That you could stick anywhere in your father's car
I
after
love
you give him his
stickers.
Father's Day card.
Love stickers.
It'll also come with a cool little Grind It Out sticker. But on top of that, we're coming up with a koozie set that will also have those very same memes on it.
Koozies are great. I love koozies. I got to see the mock-up design of these right before we started recording, actually, and they came out so cool. They're gonna look great if you put your cup of coffee or your beer or whatever you want to put in your koozie. Like your Nitro Brew can will fit right in there.
There it is.
You know, I love koozies, and it's a set. There's two different ones. They each say something a little different. Got the Death Wish Coffee logo on them, obviously. That's gonna be so much fun. I can't wait.
Yeah. So that's all we got for this week.
All right.
We're just gonna let a little bit out.
We're ramping up a lot of stuff, so keep tuning in every week because we got some big stuff on the horizon that's going to be released, and you don't want to miss it.
Welcome back to the show.
So this week we got to talk to the incredible Claire Wineland. She is, like we said earlier in the show, we got this kind of because she is linked up to Ricky's Ride through her foundation, which is the Claire Place Foundation. And like I might have mentioned earlier, what's amazing about this foundation, it's not just about finding a cure for cystic fibrosis. It is literally to help the families deal with all of the time they have to spend at the bedside of their afflicted, family member. And that is such an incredible thing. It really is. And Claire is someone who has been faced with death her entire life. She has been diagnosed with this to the point where multiple times the doctors told her and her family, you will die at this age. And that has been multiple times. And she has surpassed all of it.
5, 10, 15, 19, and just like, see you later.
Yep.
I'm 20 now.
And
soon to be 21.
And she is so positive, so philosophical.
Yeah, I'm going to be a little candid because Jeff and I, we weren't really sure how this interview was going to go. And we were a bit worried that we didn't have enough to talk about. But as soon as we started talking to Claire, it was very evident that this was going to be an amazing conversation. And it was. And she's just light.
She really is.
She's an amazing human being. And it was very easy I talked to her about so many things. I've learned a handful of things just from the small conversation we had. And hopefully you'll be able to glean a couple things off this conversation, but also make sure to go check out her YouTube where she talks about all these amazing things.
Check out clairesplacefoundation.org. And I do want to just note that she is so busy doing all the different things that she's doing in her life, including now living in an apartment with a roommate and paying rent and having to work and all this stuff. And she took time out of her day to talk to us, and we had to record it over the telephone. So the sound quality is a little lacking, but the quality of the conversation might be the best ever.
Yeah, it's perfect for Fueled by Deathcast. Perfect.
So tune in, mugs up for Claire Wineland.
Cheers.
The Fueled by Death guest.
And we kind of want to start off today talking about our mutual connection, really. You have your own foundation called Claire's Place Foundation, and that is part of Ricky's Ride with Ricky Brackman.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about how you kind of hooked up with Ricky's Ride?
Sure. He actually discovered us, which is always so nice when when people just stumble upon it. He just found out about the foundation and about what we were doing, and I think it's just really you can kind of tell he's such an integrity person, that when he's into something and when he kind of believes in it, he just wants to do something to help. And so he just kind of organized it on his own, which has been so just really incredibly helpful for us, because the way that our nonprofit works is we give out chunks of money. Right. So, you know what I mean? So we have, I've been in the nonprofit world for 6 years or so now, so I've met a lot of other people with nonprofits and all of that, and it's interesting because a lot of them will raise funds, but then they'll kind of do projects with the funds, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so the funds kind of last them, but for us, we're literally giving, money to people to pay for their rent and their car payments and their travel expenses and all of that, and so a lot of money is coming straight in and then straight out, so we need all the help we can get, and Ricky's just been really incredible and kind of inspired by what we're doing, which, God, who am I to complain?
Right. No, that's really awesome.
Yeah.
Now, you also have your other kind of internet campaign, your Clarity Project.
Which I gotta say, that is some of the best advice as a grown-ass man. That is some of the best advice I've ever heard, straight up.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it has made me think about things I haven't really given time to.
Yeah,
like, I guess, I'm not necessarily a person to like fear death or like but I'm also not a person to even ever really think about it. And it's kind of nice.
You're not one way or the other.
Yeah, you have some great mental exercises within the Clarity Project. So what got you started making those videos?
Well, I mean, the truth is, I've always been, even since I was little, I've always been kind of an over talker. I was born with the gift of gab. Just he came out of the womb blabbering.
You and Jeff both.
so at dinner tables and stuff, at family dinners and stuff, I'd get everyone to be quiet, and I'd put on shows, and so I always was just kind of liked sharing stories and talking about experience. And as I grew up with CF, I kind of started to realize that the way in which people the way in which sick people are actually represented and talked about in society is really gross. It's really like, it's degrading in a way.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone really, and I think it's hard to see if you're not someone that has lived with it. It's hard to see, because ever since I was little, I've grown up around people who are, completely healthy, who, meet me and feel immense pity and tell me they're sorry and put all of their, their shame and their guilt and their sadness onto me, and say they're sorry that I must be living such a hard life. Meanwhile, I'm over there in my hospital room just, having the time of my life, listening to music, doing art, whatever, feeling like life is great. And so it kind of starts to have this effect on you where you believe what people say, and you start feeling like you should be miserable because you're sick. So I got to a point where I just realized that people who are sick are very dehumanized. People don't see them as full, complex beings with wide ranges of emotions and life experience and, and valid things to share with the world. So I thought, maybe, because I was a teenager at the time, and so, I watched way too much YouTube, way more than I should have. And so I thought, hey, maybe that's a good place for me to kind of try and humanize people who are sick and to make them more three-dimensional and talk about the things that don't normally get talked about. Because I think the truth is the reason people are so weird around people who are sick, and the reason none of us really feel comfortable and none of us really know what to say, is because, first of all, because no one talks about it, no one shares their experience, I think, in kind of genuine, honest ways. And I also think just because we're freaked out of it in ourselves, you know what I mean? We live in a world where there's this kind of notion that if we get to a certain state of health or a certain state of, where we have enough money or we have the right relationships or we have the right jobs or whatever it is, right, that there's something that we're going to attain when we get to that point. We're going to be happier. We're going to be better people. We're going to whatever. And that kind of creates this weird hamster wheel mentality where we're all just, we're on like a treadmill trying to get healthier and healthier and healthier. And fundamentally, as someone who's been sick my entire life, will always be sick. I'll die sick. I'm never going to be healthy, but I'm still 100% okay. You know what I mean? I'm okay. I'm just like everyone else. I'm having human experiences. I'm having pain and suffering and joy and living on my own and like all of that. You know what I mean? I'm still living and it's still fine and beautiful. And you know what I mean? And so I think it's important to realize that, if you take health off the table for people who are sick, there's still a life there for them. Right. You don't have to obtain this notion of health before you're able to live your life. And so I thought, maybe if I talked about it enough online that people would get what I was saying, but Lord only knows.
Well, you've definitely made an impact online, just from your followers and the views on YouTube and all that stuff. And you've touched on it. You touched on it a little bit. How you were saying, you felt that there needed to be a voice for people who are sick, and you also have this wonderful strength to you. And I really wanted to kind of ask you, where do you draw your strength from? And I'm not talking about in the sense of that you are sick and you're going to die, but from the sense of that you are faced every day with people, like you said, unloading their pity and their feelings on you. Where do you find that strength to kind of overcome that and be positive?
Honestly, I find a lot of it, and it sounds weird, but I find a lot of it in science. I'm a big nerd.
We are too.
We are too, big time.
Oh, good, thank God. And I feel like, for me, some of the, and my dad is a very spiritual person. I was raised very kind of Tibetan Buddhist and kind of grew up reading those kind of things. And those do a lot for me as well, But I think where I've kind of had the most aha moments in my life has been through learning about how everything works, why it works the way it does. Because the truth of the matter is, there's so much complexity in everything if you know how to look at it right. You know what I mean? If you know what's going on under the surface, there's so much complexity to it. Even even a dewdrop. If you zoom in deep enough to the dewdrop, there's whole organisms playing out their entire life and their battles and their wars and their relationships and all of that. There's like thousands of organisms in a dewdrop living their life. There's the actual chemical makeup of the water. There's the leaf that it's sitting on and the way that it's turning sunlight into energy, and all that's crazy and you would never think twice about it. It's just another dewdrop, you know? So for me, it's kind of, you zoom in deep enough to any life, to any form of life, and you find complexity. And I kind of applied that to my own life, that it's small, it's short, and it's, you know what I mean? And it's not as, I don't have as broad of possibilities as some do, because I don't have health. But you zoom in deep enough, you look at it the right way, and there's still just as much life going on. There's still just as much complexity and beauty and, you know what I mean? And intricacy really. And it's, and so I'm very much kind of a microcosm macro kind of person, you know, the same laws that govern the universe kind of govern us. And I think that that's beautiful. And I think a lot of the times, I think some of the best advice I ever got, around being sick and kind of, you know, moving forwards with life. Because honestly, I don't think it's just a sick person thing. I think that everyone has a really, really hard time just going about life because we're kind of sold this notion that like it's way more glamorous than it is. Yeah. And most of life is just mundane stuff. It's just like, you know, going to the bathroom and then doing the dishes. You know, like that's the majority of life is just really mundane. And it's like we're all just like, it's like this mental gymnastics of like trying to get ourselves to do the same things every day. So I think some of the best kind of advice I ever got for how to just move forward and just do it is that you're not that important. Yeah. You're not that important. And I mean that in like a loving way. Like, you know what I mean? Like me being sick, that's not that big of a deal. I'm not that important. I have something to give. I have something to offer. And you know what I mean? And I can make something for the world out of my experience and out of what I've been through. I have something to share, and that can be important. That can have its own a life of its own, you know? Yeah. But me, myself, my own like head is not that important. So I don't need to like dwell on it for a million hours. And that kind of helps so much because the moment you stop fucking, sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to cuss. Sorry, I'm such a cusser. It always comes out. But you know what I mean? The moment you stop just kind of going in that endless loop of like, I don't know, you know, what you're doing wrong, how your life isn't where you want it to be, how can you get it to where you want it to be? And then, you know what I mean? Like, once you kind of get out of that and you step back and you're like, all right, everything's really crazy and we are somehow like alive and conscious and it's really weird, and you take a step back and realize you're just an organism, you know, like it takes a lot of the weight off your chest. Yeah. So I think that helped me a lot. And then I think the other thing is really the foundation gives me a lot of strength. And not because, you know, I think there's a lot of in the nonprofit world and in the charity world, which is where it gets to be really hard. Is there's a lot of just helping just for the sake of helping. Right. You know, we're just like kind of like just throwing out like spewing kind of like, oh here, like let's donate to this charity. You know, like oh like breast cancer, great. Right. You know, and without any actual intention or personal experience going into it. And you see that a lot, and I think that's why people are really detached from what it means to give, because it's such a like it's impersonal nowadays, you know what I mean? You just kind of can like give $5 to cure breast cancer and then you feel like a better person, but like, well, you're not actually giving anything of value to the world. And for me, what was really so incredible about how the foundation came to be was it came from personal experience. Like my mom and I mostly work on it together. It's kind of it's kind of turned into our baby, but you know it comes from my family having to go through the experience of having a kid dying in the hospital, you know, multiple times in her life, and, you know, them wanting to be there with me while I was on my deathbed and not being able to be at work, you know, for weeks and weeks and months, because that's kind of the reality of when you have CF. It's so time and energy consuming. It's 4 to 5 hours a day of breathing treatments. It's a quarter of your life in the hospital. It's, you know what I mean? It really takes your parents and your family to be so involved. And the thing is, sickness isn't the only problem in people's lives. So if you're a single mom and you have 2 kids with CF and both of them take, you know, 8 hours of breathing treatments every day, that's, you know what I mean? Someone's always in the hospital. How are you supposed to have, you know, a life? How are you supposed to go to to work. How are you supposed to, you know what I mean? So we had experienced that personally. That's not me just spewing off random data about CF families. That's a personal experience of, having to be alone by myself in the hospital because my parents had to go to work. And so the foundation came from such a place of, we went through something really hard when I was 13, and I was in a coma for around 2.5 weeks and all of that. And when I kind of came out of that experience, we realized that we really needed to do something to help other families who are going through the same thing. And so that's kind of how the foundation came about. And it's been 6 years of just such a whirlwind of realizing how necessary it is, because all of the money that's raised for cystic fibrosis goes directly to finding a cure for it. And that's awesome. Great. I'd love a cure. But again, that's that notion of health that's way all out in the distance. What about actually living your life right now? What about having support for going about your day-to-day life? And that's kind of what we get to do. And that's been a real kind of source of strength for me because it's, I see how needed it is. And so I see that I need to get up and pull myself together in order to help it survive,
Yeah, totally. No, that's awesome. And I mean, your foundation really is leaving its lasting mark on the world. And one of the tenements actually I've gleaned from some of your stuff that you've posted through your Clarity Project as well is your ideal. And I think this is so poignant, especially for what we try to do even on this podcast, where you say that, death is inevitable and living a life worth living is what really matters. And that's kind of where we bore the idea of the Fueled by Death cast, because everyone, whether you're sick or not, we feel, is fueled by the inevitability that we're all going to leave this rock one day.
Yeah, of course.
And it's how we leave it and what we leave behind is really what, is what is tallied. And I love that idea coming from you too, because you're so well versed on that. You sound like someone who is not just going through what you're going through, but you sound like someone who's a philosopher who really has spent time and energy, developing these ideals, and it's really empowering to listen to you talk about that.
Thank you. I think that's actually one of the best compliments I've ever gotten.
Oh, there it is. Gold star for Jeff.
Yeah,
thank you.
Well, you're welcome. And
it means a lot to me.
I truly mean it.
It's much better than the "you're inspirational" comment. Because that one I get all the time. But I like the "you're a philosopher" one. That one I'm keeping in the books.
Well, I truly mean it, because one thing that you touched upon in a few of your videos actually was the idea of not rushing through life.
Yeah, that one got me a lot, because I always think about when that time will come when it'll be oh, you have a week to live, and it's what am I going to smash into that week?
Yeah,
and
exactly. It's what's hilarious is we were talking, me and my roommate, who's a really good friend of mine. We were talking the other day about if the world was actually ending, what would we logistically and practically do? Because both of us don't make that much money,
Right.
I help with a nonprofit and I do some public speaking jobs, but and I live by myself in Venice, which is crazy expensive. So I'm not making that much money. So I'm thinking if someone says tomorrow, the world's going to end in 3 days, I'm thinking logistically, what would I actually do? Because I don't have enough money to go travel the world and jump out of planes. And so I'm like, what would I do? And we literally were just we would sit around, we'd order a bunch of Postmates, and watch Wayne's World. We'd probably just,
yes,
that's
awesome.
We'd probably just get we'd probably get sugarfish, which, because I'm obsessed with sushi. So we'd probably just get sugarfish, enough to last us for 5 days straight, and just watch a bunch of South Park. That's probably all we do.
I'm coming over.
Yeah, right. No, please.
What would you do, Jeff?
I would go to Claire's, is what I would do. 100%.
That's awesome.
Yeah, right. I know. Got the right idea.
But yeah, I guess the idea is that it's not about quantity, it's about quality.
Right.
What's actually gonna matter to you, not what can you knock off your checklist.
Right. Well, and I think also, talking about nerdy science things, what's really, what's really interesting to me is the actual dying process, because, you know, I've gone through the experience of dying, of what it feels like. I had my lungs like fail on me, you know, which was a good 5 hours of them slowly failing, not being able to fix it. You slowly start to kind of go crazy because your CO2 levels get higher,
Right.
you know, because you're retaining stuff because you're suffocating. So I felt that, and I experienced that, and not in a like overly dramatic sense, but I know what it feels like to finally kind of like close your eyes when you actually kind of decide to let go. And what's really interesting about it is it lasts forever. Like it just
Wow.
goes on and on. You literally are just, you're there, and it's like time completely stops. And not in kind of, you have flashbacks, but not in the sense of like you're sitting there, you know, in your whole life. It's just you have a lot of time and space to think about things. So you just kind of have this moment of like, it gets very still and very slow. And I remember that really clearly because I've been working on I'm working on writing a book that's actually kind of, you know, my personal wording on the whole thing, because people have written stuff about me, but like I've never actually written my own experience. And so I was trying to articulate it the other day, but really what it is it's just this, you kind of dive into this kind of infinite, how if you get small enough and deep enough into your own brain, you can make, you know, the 5 seconds when you're dying can be the most exciting, like intricate 5 seconds of your entire life, you know, which is, it's an interesting thing to think about that in your day-to-day life.
Yeah.
That, you know, when it comes down to it, you know, all these grandiose ideas we have about, you know, going out in a bang and whatever, you know, whatever it is.
Right.
Like, because I've had my things, you know, I was convinced that, you know, if I knew that I was going to die of CF, if I knew it was coming for sure, there was no cure, I was too sick beyond repair, that I'd just leave the hospital and I'd like come up with some huge, extravagant like way to die. You know, it's just like
you ever just want to
something
like
crazy.
hop in a fast car and just like
Oh, totally.
like rip down the road and
Yeah.
like screw it, it's close
Exactly.
enough, we're doing it.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'll pull like they do the Death Proof by Quentin Tarantino.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
The movie,
Yeah.
I'd get on a car, strap myself to it, you know, something good, something to draw some attention. But the point is that it's not that grandiose. It's not that big and exciting. It's really small and it's simple. And at the end of the day, it's just you looking at yourself, being like, okay, hello, you know, this is
Right.
like, this is what we have, this is what we've done, this is who you are. There's no one to convince of anything. There's no one, you know what I mean? It's just you sitting there with yourself, and it lasts forever.
Kind of
And so
sounds nice.
it is. I mean, it is. I hate to be all morbid and, you know, sound all like an emo sick kid, but yeah, you know, it is nice. It's nice because once, if you don't actually die, you know, if you're close to dying and then you don't, you have a lot more comfortability with yourself. And I think that that's something that a lot of us don't have, is we're not very comfortable just being with ourselves, which is, I think, my point with the whole, you just want to live life slowly when you're dying, is like doing big, grandiose things oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes, is a way for us to like, ignore like what we kind of know is going on.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
kind of a way of running away from things, you know what I mean? Or a way of running away from yourself.
A
Or
distraction.
distracting yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, distraction. It's like, you know, if I do enough big, like, exciting things, I might forget that I don't really like myself.
Yeah.
You know, and like, and so dying is less so about doing a bunch of big things, and it's more so about finding a way to like yourself, because you have to, because you're the only one that's going to be there for you when you die. And so
Yeah. Wow.
it comes from a very practical sense, you know?
Do you feel like every time you've gotten close to dying, you feel like every time you've come out of it, you've gained a little bit more?
I think so, but
is
it's
it
hard.
like a
It's hard to
transformation
tell.
process?
Well, to my parents, it definitely was. I remember my dad saying when I woke up from the coma, he looked at me in the eyes. So it was like 3 days of horrible detox, because they had me on so many drugs to keep me in the coma, that I was detoxing and hallucinating like crazy for like 3 days. And so
Oh my God.
he walked back into the room one morning thinking that I was still going to be, you know, crazy. But I had finally finished detoxing and I was present. And he said, he looked at me in the eye, and I just stared at him and didn't say anything because I was still intubated. And I just stared at him for like 10 minutes. And he said that he felt like something big had changed for me. And it's funny because I logistically don't really, like, I don't have I feel like it's one of those things where it's hard to say because growing up is so linked with my dying experiences.
Right.
So it's like, I don't know if it's just that I've grown up and matured and experienced more life and thus I have more understanding of it, or if it's because of the, because of the near-death experiences that I have this understanding of life. I don't know if it's just comes with age or, kind of thing, or if it's because there's been, and I think too, something that's interesting is not all of my relationship to death comes with actually being close to dying. Like, a lot of it's like surgeries. Going in for surgeries is such a bizarre and really terrifying thing because you're laying there strapped to a table and you're being put unconscious, and you know that there's a percentage of a chance that you won't wake up from it and that you'll die then. So you kind of always have to have this level of acceptance when you're being like, given the propofol to put you under. You always have to have a level of like, all right, this is what's happening. This, if I don't wake up, I don't wake up.
Right.
And nowadays it's easy peasy lemon squeezy, but when I was a kid, it was terrifying.
Yeah.
And so, and I've had like 36 surgeries in my life. So every single time, and I'm such a stubborn little like brat that I always refused. I refused to get the pre-drugs. So most people go into surgery already drugged up on like, crazy, like cushy drugs so that they're all happy and blissed out. But I was too stubborn, and so I always refused to go on the comfy drugs. So I had to actually like deal with being freaked out and paranoid, and so that actually helps me a lot because I got really good at being able to flip a switch really fast.
Was that a conscious decision? Was it like I don't want to go on the cushy drugs because I want to learn how to deal with this?
Kind of. It was, I don't want to go on the cushy drugs because I want to be aware and present when I go under. I didn't like not being aware and present when I went under because I felt, I mean, it's interesting, but I kind of felt like I wouldn't be as invested in staying awake or waking up afterwards, like I felt like if I was drugged, I would check out and then I might not make it, because I have this notion that it's very much the mind that kind of dictates the body. And that's from, that's just because that's, for me, that's what's always worked, is that if I kind of have a lot of willpower and stubbornness around my body doing something, it'll do it. So I was afraid if I was too checked out, that I might not come to. I wanted to be aware for the whole thing and make sure that the doctors were putting the right blood the blood puff on the right arm and all of that. I was such a little, I'm such an anal freak when it comes to hospital shit, just because I know it all so well that it's hard to check out for me,
Right. Do you think that's helped?
Very much so. Yes, very much so. And I have kind of a because I was raised in hospitals so much that I'm so overly comfortable with doctors. I'm too comfortable with doctors. I don't respect them enough. So I have this kind of, I've seen too many fuck up, and I've seen too many nurses fuck up, like exponentially. Like one time this nurse almost hooked me up to my IV without priming the line, which means that the whole line was filled with air. And if you get more than 1 inch of air into your blood, it kills you. And this was a central line, which meant the line led directly to my heart. So the moment that 1 inch would have gotten in, it would have gone directly to my heart, and my heart would have stopped. And she hooked up, it was twisted into the thing. She was about to press go, and I looked and I noticed there was no tiny air bubbles in the tube. And that's weird because if there's fluid in it, there's normally little air bubbles. And I was like, hey, did you prime this? And she went ghost pale and was like,
God.
Shit.
Oh my God.
Wow. And so there's been too many of those instances in my life for me to easily check out, because I just feel like I need to be so on all the time. Mm-hmm. But I mean, the truth is if it doesn't, I have to sleep. You have to sleep eventually. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
If something's gonna happen, I guess it's just gonna happen. And there's a part of me that just has to let it happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, I think it side rant, but I think it definitely did help with my relationship to death, because I got really good at being able to turn on and off a switch where, you know, I could be terrified but still act. You know, I could be literally like wanting to piss my pants, scared as shit, walking to the operating room, but still do it, you know? And that gave me a lot of grit, just kind of in life in general.
I think that's kind of the meaning of bravery. I mean, we're all scared shitless when it comes down to it, and it's just the fact of like, will you actually go through with it? With the fact that you're scared shitless. And that's so important. That's awesome. Yeah. And I'm never going to be the same after hearing that. I'm always going to be paranoid of nurses now.
Yeah, you should. You should always, all my friends know to have me around if they ever get into they have to go to the ER for anything.
Right.
They're like, oh, Claire, can you come just make sure that no one kills me if I sleep on accident?
Oh my God, how many times does it happen and we don't hear about it?
Yeah, right?
I know, I mean, did you remember that time, maybe you don't, because this is just, I think, a weird sick kid thing to know, but I was in the hospital at the same time that some celebrities' kids' baby got dosed too high a dose of heparin.
Oh, no.
From the nurses, and heparin is a blood thinner, and they put heparin into a central line to stop it from clogging. But I remember I was in the hospital, and I remember hearing about this drama and how they were trying to sweep it under the rug through some celebrity's kid, but they had accidentally given it, instead of 10 millimeters of heparin, they'd given it 100.
Oh my God.
And it killed the kid, and the kid died. And like, there's this whole, and I remember it was at Cedars, and it was like this whole drama, and the nurses were like trying to figure out how to, like, you know, blame it on something else. And
oh my
so
God.
you don't ever realize how much that happens. But they're humans. I mean, they're people taking care of other people, you know? It's bound to happen. It's just medicine is so powerful that one slip up and oopsie daisies.
Right.
We need robot nurses.
Yeah, we do. I mean, except, you know, I've read enough sci-fi to know that probably wouldn't end well either.
It's a whole mess of more nightmares.
We don't need robot nurses.
You mentioned earlier that you're writing a book. Can you talk a little bit about your book? What got you even the idea of writing a book is quite the endeavor.
Huge, really huge, and I didn't realize until I started, which is a very Claire thing of me.
Whoops.
Whoopsie daisies. Kind of how it goes with everything in my life. But no, you know, I'd been propositioned by many a people in my life to write a book, and it just never felt right. It always just felt like it was gonna be just another sick kid book. I'm like, the world does not need another like happy sick person telling people to be happy. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, there's enough. Like, and you know, I get that, like, if you boil down anyone's message enough, you know, anyone's inspirational message enough, it just kind of turns into that. So I'm like, I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I already talk about my story enough. I'm a public speaker. I share it all the time. I met my best friend, and she's a beautiful artist and a poet, and just someone that, like, I envy so much her incredibly intricate way of explaining things and saying things and translating her experience, because I think that's, you know, kind of artists that I really admire are people who can translate their own experience in a way that feels like your own experience, you know? And we just kind of started working on projects together and started working on shorts, like short films around Venice and all that stuff. And then finally one day we were talking and we realized we kind of, like, I was giving her these like big ideas I had and on sickness and life and all of it. And she was like, hey, you should let me help you write it. And I was like, wow, that's a genius idea. And so, you know, so we're working on it together, and it's really wonderful because I'm trying to find a way to just make something that's genuine. You know what I mean? That makes something that's a genuine, you know, wrap up of my experience and what I've in every sense of the word, because I have, like, there's the you know, the kind of sickness that I've dealt with, and everyone's reaction had to do with everyone's feelings around it. But at the same time, there's also just other aspects of my life and why I am who I am, and family things, and you know what I mean, and a lot of that I've never talked about. And so I'm trying to make something that humanizes people who are sick, but that also makes people more okay with their own suffering and their own experience as people. Because I think one of the fundamental problems that I see in kind of how we, and how we act, and one of, I think, humanity's problems currently, and maybe throughout all of time, is just that we do not have pride in our pain. We don't have pride in our experience, you know what I mean, and what we've been through. And when people have suffered, really suffered, you know what I mean, not just like Chip and Dale suffered, but actual pain, heartbreak, sickness, death, you know what I mean, all of that, which is just a part of being alive. It happens. But when you experience that, that's such a well of of information. Like it's so usable, you know what I mean? And I think people tend to be ashamed of their own experience and what they've been through and the things that they've experienced. They're ashamed of it before they take any pride in it. And I think we're all kind of like, we're all trying to pretend we're more than we are. And the truth is that the people that have really changed the world, the people that have given something of real substance to humanity, are people who have suffered. I mean, look at Beethoven, Stephen Hawking. Don't really generate beautiful things to humanity and society aren't people whose lives have been, fine and dandy. And I think that's the whole point, is that you kind of get closest to the truth through a lot of pain.
Yeah. I feel like suffering's the one thing that we all have in common, and to embrace suffering is to feel a connection to everybody around you. Exactly. Because if it's not your own, it's someone else's. You know what I mean? Like, if it's not your own pain, like, then you start thinking about politics and world events, and then you feel pain, and like, you know what I mean? So you're gonna feel it somewhere. You're either a cold, closed off bastard, or you're gonna feel pain. And it's not a matter of feeling it or not feeling it, because you should be feeling it. It's a matter of what you're doing with it, and what you're making with it, what you're giving from that place. And I think that that's something I'm trying to get across with writing a book. And Lord knows if I'm going to succeed, but I am tirelessly working on it. So,
that's excellent.
Yeah, keep you posted.
Yeah, please do. I'm very excited to see the end result of that.
Yeah, thank you.
So you got the book going. This episode of Fueled by Deathcast is actually going to coincide with the beginning of Ricky's ride in June, and that is also obviously helping out Claire's Place Foundation. Is there anything else coming up that you're doing?
Well, no, I mean, yes, at the end of the summer in September, we are having a glow ride, which we do every year. But we're no specifics on that yet. But the Ricky's ride is a huge deal for us, because we're currently at the point where, we have so many families that have been asking for help and support, and we're kind of like on this, we're on this thing where we're trying to kind of constantly bring in enough to put right out. So any donations made through Rick Ride are going directly to 2 families that we currently have who are asking for support. So there's we can track your, whatever your donation is. I mean, if it's $5, we it through, straight into someone's, to someone's rent check or someone's, medical bills. And we had, I remember last month we had kind of one of the biggest, I think, one of the most hard-hitting stories, or impactful stories that we've ever had, which was a woman with Steph who was homeless and was dragging her medical equipment from shelter to shelter, and didn't have any support, and was too sick to actually get a job, which I understand, because it's possible to get a 9 to 5 when you have like 5 hours of breathing treatments every day. Right. And finally, a social worker got in contact with us, and when she was in the hospital, we were able to get her an apartment, have her pay her the deposit and all of that, and she was discharged from the hospital into.
Wow.
So that was really crazy, and that was everyone who donated for the kind of Christmas month. All of their money went directly to that, and everyone got to literally see her get the apartment, and it's same with that. We have 2 families right now that that are applying for help, and so it's at a good point right now, where we're kind of, everything that's made, none of it goes to overhead. It's all going straight in and then straight back out.
So you can actually see the change that you're making. You can actually notice the difference that you're contributing.
Yeah, exactly. There's a 7-year-old that's been in the hospital for tons of times this past year, and the mom had to quit her job, and the father is working a super low paying position, and they have 4 other siblings. And so so her electricity is about to be shut off. Money will go to that, and and many other cases just like that. So it's a huge, for us, it's kind of constantly keeping on top of that, since we're one of the only foundations in the CF community that does this, and solely this. So yeah, it's huge, and all the help and support and eyes looking our way is incredibly appreciated.
That's amazing. And I feel if I were in that position of one of those families or one of those people, the thing that would make the biggest difference is knowing that somebody out there cares and is actually trying to make a difference. I think that is even more important than the monetary value that comes of it. It's just to know that somebody out there is watching out for you, which is truly amazing.
Yeah, and it's so funny, as someone now that I just turned 20, I just had my birthday.
Happy birthday! Mazel tov!
Thank you. So I'm officially out of the teen years, and it's really bizarre to me because I actually have bills now and taxes and all of that, and I know, right? Yeah, definitely boo. But I'm also realizing how helpful having someone who has some who will financially support you if things get too hard, how huge that is. Because before I was looking at it kind of just from the perspective of a kid, you know what I mean? And a CF kid that just wanted her parents to have some support. But now I'm looking at it as an adult CFer who actually has bills to pay and who needs some support sometimes. Right. And so I'm kind of understanding how helpful it is to have, kind of a safety net in a way that I never did before. I never understood kind of how crucial it was and how terrifying bills can be. If your kid is dying, it's horrible, but if you can't pay your bills and your kid is dying, right, that's an extra, it just seems it's so many levels of torture, I just can't imagine. And that's the least we can do for people, is make sure that they have their bases covered.
Well, you're definitely doing a lot, and it's really awesome to see all the things that you are involved in. And I finally, if you can kind of tell our listeners where they can follow you.
Oh, of course. We'll go to find out more about the foundation and about what we do. You can go to clairesplacefoundation.org. To find out more about me, that's confusing because I have so many different weird social media pages going at the moment. I'm trying to consolidate, but you can look up the Clarity Project, or you can follow me at Claire Wineland on Twitter. Yep. And I believe I have one of those in Instagram as well. I'm all over the map. Yeah. But anything foundation-wise is me, so you're good.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much again for taking time to talk to us on the podcast.
I feel like I'm ready to take on the day now.
Yeah.
It's I feel stronger just from talking to you. Seriously, it's really refreshing.
Oh, thank you so much. No, this was a pleasure.
Awesome. Well, and we'll be in touch. Like I said, I definitely want updates on that book.
Oh, of course. Everyone will get updated.
Excellent.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much.
Excellent. Well, yeah, thanks again.
Have a good day, guys.
You too.
This has been Fueled by Deathcast, a Death Wish Coffee Company podcast production. Thanks for listening.